Hi, I'm Armie Armstrong, and we're looking today at a few tips and tricks that we use every day when we're setting up our kit, packing it down, and looking after it. This is a full carbon titanium foil set. We've got our 795 performance mast, TC60 fuse, a screw set that would come with the kit. All the parts come individually with spare screws as well. We've got an HA880, Dart 140, and the tools. So let's put this thing together. It's upside down in this setting. This is the standard way you're going to set it up. I do prefer to mount my mast on the board first. The fuselage tail fitting is going to be facing upwards because it's upside down currently. Get the fuselage so that it's just loosely in there. There's a decent amount still to seat. Hold the mast. I like to just tap the fuselage in, make sure it's seated firmly. You'll hear a smooth, solid click. You can use a mallet. You can also tap it onto a block of wood. Now, for the screws, we do send spare screws with everything, and we've got 3 28mm screws. You can wind them in with your hand tool. Don't forget your barrel nut on the other side of your mast. All our screws primarily use a T30 bit. It's a great fitting, it won't strip out easily, it'll last a long time. However, you can over torque with a T30. So we've grabbed a digital torque tool, has a very long lever arm, and I've set it to 8 Newton meters. Going to put our T30 bit in there. So we're just cycling through these screws. Okay, that one had to wind up a fraction of a turn. So we've checked them all at 8 Newton meters. Then what you can do is you can unwind them and see how they feel, okay, to unwind. And that'll give you a feel for where that 8 is. Now I'll just do that again. Yep, pretty much bang on where I'd normally do it. It's nice and snug and requires about a quarter of a turn to, to ease off. Every session, before I get in the water, I just whip over my screws. It takes about 30 seconds, check that they're all snug. Undoing, if you do have to get right out here on the torque, of the full torque of this handle, you've possibly overwhelmed your screw, tightened it too tight at the start. So it is a bit of a trick. There's a happy medium, not too tight, not too loose, just right. Okay, if you're going to use an electric drill, I'm bringing this up because I see a lot of people do it. Put it on a really low torque setting and do not drive the screw all the way home to torque with the electric drill. So this is at a really low torque setting. Okay, it's going to give me that little buzz, not rotate. No torque is on those screws at all. I'll need to tighten them up with the hand tool. So it's the same with undoing. Do the torquing with the hand tool. I do often leave this together, actually my mast and fuse, pretty much most of the time. However, sand can get in there in a sandy situation if you're on a beach break. So do to pull it apart and wash it every now and then. The screws will stay pristine forever. We've had some rigs lost at sunset for months on end, and guys spearfishing found them all encrusted with coral and stuff. And the screws and everything just came apart, no problem. So that's fine. The biggest issue you might find is people over torquing the screws and causing metal fatigue, which is what will cause screws to break. So torquing up screws too much, using the long part of this handle, winding it too tight, can cause the screws to fatigue and ultimately break. They can fizz a little bit with the carbon too, so if your screws are looking worn, replace them early. 2 sets come with every foil kit, spares with every foil. They're pretty cost effective on the website as well. Grab some more screws from your local dealer if you need to. I always travel with a couple of spare sets of screws because no problem there. Swap a screw out, super easy before it gets fatigued. Right, here's an HA880 front foil. We're going to line that up. Also leave a small gap here. Give that a firm tap. That'll seat on nicely. Make sure your screws are lined up. Screw holes are all good. Get your screws in position with your 3rd screw on the front. Okay, so we've got our 2 28mm screws, the front screw hole. Okay, this screw hole here is a shorter screw because of the taper of the foil and the fitting on the foil to reduce drag. So this is a shorter screw. The gold colored screw is shorter, so make sure you use that in your front screw hole. Now, I'm perfectly happy winding these screws in, you know, with the hand driver. But if I'm machining, I do often use a drill, and I've seen plenty of people do it. So with the drill, same again, keep the torque setting low, and you can wind these screws in a bit faster. Once your front foil's on, do the tail. You can put the foil over on its side to put the tail on. If the foil's on its side, the tail screws will stay in there when you're putting the tail on. However, 9 times out of 10, the foil's going to be mounted on your board, so you might put the tail on with it just sitting like this. In this case, if you're going to use a shim, if no shim, no worries, just put one screw in after the other. If you're using a shim, if you put the rear screw in first, there's a hole in the shim which will stop it blowing away in the wind. Line up the tail, wind the screw in a couple of turns, get your front screw. Now, when I'm doing up the front screw, I like to hold the front of the tail just to keep it in position. Grab your tool, just hand tight. Now, the same with the rear screw, I like to hold the back just to make sure it's really nicely aligned. There is a bit of tolerance in these screw holes, so you could push this left or right. It's a small angle, but you could introduce it if you're not careful when you tighten these tail screws. It won't really affect your ride unless you're taking off on a massive wave at Jaws. Let's get out there, have a session, have fun. All right, we've come back from our session. We're ready to pull our kit apart. There are a few things you can do here. Kind of the first thing always is the tail. Crack these screws off. Once you've loosened them, you could use your drill, but there's only a few turns in the tail screws, so pretty easy just to spin these out. Wind the rest of the screw out with your fingers or with the tool. Get rid of your tail. Let's look at undoing the screws on the front foil. Key point for removing the front foil, always make sure this little hidden barrel nut, if your rig's upside down, undo that first. Don't wind this screw first because this can break the screw or damage the metal fatigue, and then your screw might break later. So make sure you're always undoing the barrel nut here first. Loosen it off. You could, as long as you've loosened it a turn, okay, it'll be fine. I prefer to take mine all the way out because you've already got the tool in it. It's not a very long thread. You might as well just pull it all the way out. Then the rest of your screws are ready to loosen. So we're going to crack these all. I like to make sure I've got the tool really square. Leaning it with one hand, holding it square, keep the bit nicely engaged. Wind it off. Okay, so these screws, you can wind them out with your hand tool, no problem. With the drill, no problem. Remembering you've already loosened them. You've got your front foil screws all removed. Let's get the front foil off. There's a couple of little tips. I like to put my hand on the front of the mast and push with my thumb. If your hand's not that big, there's a few little tips. You can just get your hand here and push a little bit and tap. Okay, and that'll just start, you can see we've gained a couple of mil here, so that started winding that off. Another method that can be used if you've got a rubber mallet handy is you can firmly hold the foil in this position here in the fitting and tap the front of the mast backwards, okay? So use your rubber mallet, tap the front of the mast while holding the foil. Make sure all your screws are out, okay? That's probably the easiest way to do it if you've got a mallet handy. So I'll just do that in a couple of different angles for you guys. I'll do it this way. So I'm going to hold this here. So I'm holding the foil, tapping the front of the mast, okay? For the fuselage, I tend to leave this together, but definitely pull it apart every now and then to wash it. So let's unwind it. If it's been together a while, make sure you hold the tool nice and square. These screws might be firm. When you did them up, you might have been frothing and wound them up a little bit too tight with your impact driver. Yeah, try to avoid doing that. Try to make sure you hand tighten and loosen. Once the pressure's off and you've unwound the torque, for sure you can use the drill, but it's not too bad just to wind them out by hand. Double check you've got all your screws removed. We do recommend keeping this screw in here, so that just locks all these components together. And we have on the back of the fuselage, there's a titanium rear end. This is very strong. It's designed to hit a block of wood or the ground. The easiest way I find is to just tap this down onto the block of wood. That'll pop the fuse. I like to hold my mast, give that a tap. I can grab the fuse like this. The other method for removal is to sit it. If you've got a mallet, set this on the block of wood. You've got your screw in position. Tap the front of the mast with the mallet. It's going to tap it down, okay? I'm going to throw a little tip in here for changing shim. If you're swinging your shim in or out, you can leave the front screw in and just plonk the tail over to the side a little bit, remove the shim, or again, putting the shim in, you can leave the front screw just a little bit loose, slide the shim in, you've got an open hole at the front, you can slide the shim in from the back. Whenever we're testing floors, if we're adjusting tail angles, we just loosen the front screw, take the back screw out, that's your shim. The last thing you want to do is, not have enough screws to put your kit together and get out in session. So I always keep 2 screw kits, which means I've got 4 sets of screws pretty much forever. And literally, they don't weigh much. 2 screw sets is not a lot of extra kit. And we do ship, a full set of spares. So always keep your spares on hand. And these stainless screws, after 6 months or so, I'll usually cycle mine out. It depends how often you're using your kit. We try to use the kit every day. That's my goal in life anyway. I don't know what yours is, but for sure, I try and get on the water every day. And when we do that, yep, we're often, I don't actually take my fuselage out much. I pretty much leave this bit assembled. But if you do leave it assembled for a long period of time, these screws here can also, they are 316 stainless with a Thai PVD coating, but they can corrode against the carbon. So you've just got to have a look at your kit every now and then, see where it's out, and we do recommend if you leave it together, which you can do with our system with the titanium threads, they're not going to get fused in, no issues with any of that, but you do want to back these screws out and pop your fuse out every now and then to wash inside there, because sand, especially if you're in a shory, surf break situation with sand in the water, sand will get in here and will start wearing your parts. So you do want to wash it out every now and then. Leaving your kit together for years on end, not really recommended. Better to pull it apart, wash it every now and then, but for sure, a couple of months over summer, leave it together and maximize your session time. Covers, hey, we provide the covers. They do have a shiny silver side. That's so you can put it in the sun. I usually play the silver side. I usually put it on the bottom if it's on the roof of your car this way around. And the Velcro does close and stay on if you're driving, if you chuck it on your roof. But you need to be, with the foil facing forward. If you're driving backwards with this thing, the Velcro can open in the breeze while you're driving, you can lose your bag. Washing your kit, hey, for sure, you can wash it every now and then. It doesn't hurt to keep the salt off it. Everything will last longer if you wash it out a bit, but it's pretty solid and impervious. I've got a lot of friends, Silvio Mancusi in Hawaii. It's just absolute gear thrasher. That's why we love him. He pushes it to the limit, and his stuff just lies around his yard, and he just, I need to ride that, just picks it up. It's just lying in the grass, picks it up, goes out and uses it. That's his style. I like to keep mine a little cleaner, but that's all good. And then otherwise, have fun, go rip.